decades of academic and research excellence in the field of agriculture and services to the motherland and a presidential awardee. He's one of the foremost researchers in the field of agriculture. You know, one thing that we learned during the COVID-19 debacle, rather crisis, is that how much ultimately the basic things like food and water becomes important. So this gentleman has 4 decades of experience or more in doing research work. He has academic qualifications all the way to the top to the PhD on genetics and plant breeding from North Dakota State University, USA, 1989. He's an alumni of University of Peradeniya and has a master's degree from Japan. So he has been to the east and the west and the local. So he has the education right. He has been employed from 1969 to 2000 as a rice breeder, a deputy director, Rice Research and Development Institute, Batalagoda. From 2000 to 2003, affiliate scientist, rice breeding again, International Rice Research Institute in Philippines. 2004 to 2012, technical advisor, JICA. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Tsukuba International Center, Japan. He has won some excellent award at national level. He's a 1982, His Excellency the President's Award for Rice Breeding, 1980 award for FAO Award for Contribution to Agriculture, 1996 Council for Agriculture Research Policy CARP Award for the development of the most popular rice variety BG300. We all know about that. Then in 2004 CARP Award for Best Rice Breeder, a shared award with 2 other research experts. In 2014, President's Award for the Best Rice Breeder. 2017, recipient Best Plant Breeder Award for the Diamond Jubilee of the University of Peradeniya. 2018, Best Agriculture Scientist Award. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a pioneer in this field. He's none other than Dr. MP Dhanapala, former Director, Rice Research Development, Department of Agriculture, Batalagoda. Dr. Dhanapala, welcome and thank you for being here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the nice introduction. And this is the place where I worked my entire life in the Department of Agriculture. This is Central Rice Breeding Station, Badalagod. And you can see my title, Rational Look at the Genetic Improvement of Rice in Sri Lanka. This is important. And I have to summarize a period of more than a century rice breeding work in Sri Lanka within 20 minutes, which is a difficult. I know, whichever way I do my presentation, it will be an incomplete presentation. Why this topic is important? There is serious misunderstanding of facts about genetic improvement of rice. To say a few of them, they say the rice varieties, modern rice varieties that we are cultivating are genetically modified, but they are not. You need an example of genetic modification. The best example I can give you is humulene. The human insulin, which is being administered to your system to regulate your sugar level. Then the next thing is that we are feeding the general public buses poison, which is again not true. None of the rice varieties we developed can synthesize poison unless you put that into soil or apply to the plant. And people think the modern rice varieties cannot be cultivated without insecticides, herbicides, of her life. But you can do that. And still, they will feel better than the traditional variety, and will understand. Because we have used the scientific approach to address the food security, which you will see in my presentation. And my presentation is not based on gossip, but based on recorded facts in the Journal of Tropical Agriculture. That is the Journal of the Agricultural Society, which is much older than the Department of Agriculture. Now, in the ancient period, people speculate rice production has been prosperous, and we have been exporting rice. But if anybody can produce the evidence, the records, the cultural practices, and the methodology and the technology to the Department of Agriculture, to the Rice Research and Development Institute, they will test it and they will recommend it to the farmer. But just telling the people what is coming down the generation as gossip or tales is not correct to sort of damage the reputation earned by the modern rice varieties among the farmers. Now, if you go through the indigenous rice varieties, I would say in 1902, we have only 300 indigenous rice varieties. Displayed by Mugavela Disa in the Agri-Horticultural and Industrial Exhibition. And this is the report. And what you get below, what you get below here is only 150 types, which has gone down to 150 in the event of 20 years. 100 become 150. That is the real collection, right? If I say 300 is the number of varieties that we had in Sri Lanka, I may be correct and nobody can argue because nobody has found anything more than 300. But later, this person, Molagoda, got the possession of these 300 varieties. And he was losing some varieties, but he couldn't replace them because they were missing. So everything was handled by farmer. Maintenance, naming, everything by farmer. So because of that, you had a lot of duplications. Then impurities, different types. That's why we have put types here. They can be called land riches, not very pure. Then impurities there. Then in 1924, he had collected names of the varieties within Sri Lanka. He was able to get only 560 names. And among those names, you get introduced varieties also. Then in 1944, 42 hill paddy varieties were identified and named by Duncan J. Zolza. So those were the varieties we had and nothing more. Then the genetic improvement by selection was done by the Department of Agriculture, although Department of Agriculture was established in 1912 after the Ceylon Agriculture Society. Anyway, the first person who did some work on rice improvement is Dr. Long. They are Britishers. And this variety, Hadir, is a 7-month variety. So you get in the literature, most of the people do not know what literature is in rice. This is the first variety, and the variety is taking 7 months. Just like a cassava plantation. You have to wait for 7 months to eat. In 1920s, they initiated purifying popular land races or types or whatever you call it because of the mixtures. And this was done by the systematic botanists of the Department of Agriculture. They were all Britishers. Then later, followed by Graham Wickramasekara, a Sri Lankan petty officer. You know what has happened at the beginning? They started this at Peradeniya and at Anuradhapura, it's Mahainupalama. And they have isolated some plants. And rice being a self-pollinated crop, once you identify a plant, that will start breeding prototype. The plants they have identified, you can purify them. The problem was they didn't have the adaptation of the stability, and they did not grow well in the other regions. What is been selected that Mahainupalama didn't do well at Peradeniya, vice versa. And because of that, they have to start. Now, most of people do not know this. By growing in one place, they think that you can cover the whole country with the same. But we have to remember that we are having 24 agroecological regions in Sri Lanka. And you may not be successful selecting and one location. So they had to do that for selection, testing, demonstration, production, and distribution. Now, pure line selection continued until late 1940s. And they have identified pure lines and did purity maintenance and multiplication and recommendation for cultivation. The most important thing is that we lost biodiversity significantly. The varieties were mixtures, as I said, were land races. So if there had been any changes in the environment, they had the potential to adjust to those changes. And they can get adjusted. And you call it, that's an English term, but I forgot anyway. Now, the 21 varieties we have identified. We had 5 to 6 months varieties, 4.5 months varieties, and 3.5 short duration varieties. The most popular group is 4 to 4.5 months varieties. Now we have to remember, we had only 2 varieties which are white rices. Others all red pericarp varieties. But we have to be very careful because there was a specific ID number given for each variety. For example, Podivi A8, Kudulutudu B30. Now people cultivate Kudulutudu right now, which are red rices, but it's white. And it is photosensitive, 5 to 6 months. Only can be cultivated only during mass season. So this was the situation after pure line selection. Now, this is the place I want to spend a little bit of time. You can see the extent of land, then the production in bushels. 1 bushel is 20.5 kilograms. So productivity bushels per acre. This is the column I have calculated. All the others coming from Census and Statistic Department during that time. So these are the yields. You can keep this longer. So you want to realize the real potential because this is across the island in all agrological regions, not in one region. So 13.17 bushels per acre, if you divide this by 20, you will get tons per hectare. So this was the situation. The next most important thing is this. The local people produce only 1/3 of the requirement. 2/3 of the requirement is imported. If you can remember bill chart and white rice, you call it in a Sudu, Kakulu, you will remember that period. If you can recollect the Russian book, you will remember that period because this 2/3 is given some ration per week, 2 measures, and which is more important than your birth certificate. You have to surrender that if you have to go into your ration. Now my point is, if you get corona appearing during this era, where will we be? Death is not due to corona, but due to hunger. So that is, I want to say. Then, what do you think if you are in a situation like that? Crossbreeding. Crossbreeding really started in 1950 at Mahalupallam, but they didn't have water to cultivate 2 seasons. So the program, the whole thing brought to Batalkoda in 1952. That's how Batalkoda was established as the central rice breeding station. The first person was Dr. Veeraratna. What we did was to put together all the important desirable characters into one variety. And we were able to release some varieties. Now this is the first variety, H4. And this is the last variety. Didn't have time even to give a example. And this was recommended for Manavari cultivation in Jaffna. All these were red rices except H8, H9 and H7. H9 is the only variety developed in 5 to 6 months age. And at this time also, the most important age group was 4 to 4.5 months. So you can see H4 occupied more than 60%. And nobody knew about DNA structure or genetic modification during that time, because DNA structure appeared after 1953. So we had no idea, and I am the only person survived right now who involved in this improvement. So we admit that biodiversity further reduced. So we lost something called homeostasis. That is the word I forget. That is the buffering action of varieties to the environmental changes. Then started the era of new improved varieties. Now, new improved varieties followed the ideology of Norman Borlaug, and this is where people started blaming rice breeders, because we knew tallness and lodging susceptibility are the two disadvantages. Then the difference between catabolic and anabolic reactions, photosynthesis and respiration. We want to widen that so that we can retain most of the produced foods, photosynthesis, for grain production. And we had to improve varieties to produce more grain and less straw. And we have to add fertilizer to feed the people to get more grains rather than promoting vegetative growth. So we did those changes and and change the plant type and improve the lodging resistance. And we were able to gradually meet the level of self-sufficiency. Now, if you look at it, this is not by forcing the farmers to do cultivation. This is something that you call appropriate technology. If you develop the correct thing, ideal thing for the farm, they will come round and grab it. We don't have to sell our technology. This is what has happened. Now, what is happening right now? You are trying to sell obsolete technology given up by the farmers. If they are willing, they can go ahead and cultivate traditional varieties. But they will not. They will go for these varieties because there's a big yield increment, which I will show you in the next slide. Now look at this. The 1940s and 2010, average yield tons per hectare 0.65, 4.21. Now we are talking of productivity. Yield per hectare or yield per unit area, and there had been more than 6-fold increase. Look at the population, more than 3-fold increase. Still we can feed the population. Land increment is around 2-fold. So still we can feed the population with the varieties that we have developed. Then the problem came with pest and disease resistance. We have 4 problems, pest, insect pest, brown plant hopper, gold midge, bacterial leaf blight, and blast. It's not seen here. Anyway, blast. So this is a must, and we have to have this resistance of these, right? Our problem is, now people say they are susceptible to pest and diseases and you have to use insecticides, without which you can't produce good yield. What is lacking is seasonal cultivation. If you start, everybody start the cultivation with the rainfall, and you keep a gap between 2 seasons. The problem right now is overlapping crops. You can control pests. Then we need regular monitoring. Then we need IPM, integrated pest management. Now the department is advocating all that. But it's not happening. It's not the fault of the breeder or a new rice, improved rice varieties. They are not susceptible. None of the traditional varieties are resistant to any of these conditions. But to feed the people, feed the nation, you have to do that. If you were there, you will do the same. You will take the same decision to change the plant type structure, and improve the photosynthetic efficiency of the varieties. Now, grain quality, you say, we don't have good grain quality. Basmati, jasmine rice of Thailand, they are traditional varieties with grain quality. We have something like Sudur Sampa. Then IR64 and Koshikar in Japan, they are crossbred varieties in different countries. So we have BG360 in Sri Lanka. But in the past, rice quantity was more important than quality. Then if you want to improve the quality rices, the only option is mutation breeding. Then glycemic index. You talk about without conclusive experimental. Here is a variable respect to traditional or crossbred varieties. And one option you can give parboiled whole grain rice for healthy people or for healthy life. If communicable diseases is a problem, then recommend that. But if all the varieties are low GI, it's digestible, then what is your situation? Then future genetic improvement, you need strategies like mutation breeding if you want to keep the quality of the traditional varieties as it is. You can't put genes here and there and you can do that. Then the other one is unicorn advantage of varieties. We are direct seeding. So we have to have main panicle and strong panicle. Strong panicles and main panicles, heavy panicles for direct seeding. So that is the other step. Then we have to think of hybrid. People have been complaining that we are developing hybrid rice. We are
Dr.
not developing.
Dhanapal.
Yeah, I'm finished. This is my last slide.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is my last slide, what we have to do. And we have developed area specific packages and biotic stressors and promoting farmer group approach and implementing real-time information system and implementing monitoring mechanism because you don't have to complain that rice is not here and it's in the miller or something like that. So thank you very much.
Dr. Dhanapala, you and I are going to. Are you finished with your last statement?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you very short, specific questions based on the questions that have been asked. Please give me short answers. Of course, some are loaded questions. I'm not going to ask them. The question that I'm going to ask, first question is the country now self-sufficient in rice? Yes or no?
I would say yes.
Thank you. That's what I saw on your table. Less than 1% rice imports right now. Second question is that the quality of rice that we get, the grain quality and etc. Are we in a position as a country to fulfill our country's desires, demands in those terms of quality of the rice? Yes or no?
Now, what do you mean by quality?
No, as you
it
were
all
mentioning
depends.
about,
Now,
yeah,
parboiled rice or raw milk rice, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
The quality depends on the person, right? Some people like red rice very cup, some people like white very cup, some people like parboiled, some people like this one. So if you say Sudur Sampa is quality, only few people can eat that. Not all the people can eat that, can't afford to eat that. So these are the problems. So if you can give me a specific now.
No, I think right. I got the answer, doctor. I think that you basically gave an answer. It depends on the needs of the society, and accordingly, that we'll have to produce.
It varies. Yeah.
Right, it varies. Now the next question. This is where I'm saving time. Long questions are being asked. Unfortunately, reading the questions will not be possible. So what I'm going to do is I'll combine few questions that have been asked together. Now there is a question about genetically modified rice in the country.
Yeah.
Now, it is my layman's understanding that genetic modifications can be done naturally as well as artificially. Can you please take 1 minute to elaborate on that?
Okay, you can bring an alien gene into the system, but it has to be done artificially. And we don't have a single variety genetically modified in our modern life.
So if you kind of take us, you move a little bit back, things will be a lot clearer to us, the voice. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
repeat that answer, sir, if it didn't come out clearly.
But
Okay, could you kindly repeat that answer again? Your answer.
we don't have a single genetically modified variety. Genetic modification is you introduce an alien gene into the system. We have done all our breeding work following Mendelian and quantitative inheritance principles. And not a single alien gene was introduced. We have done all the work within the genome of the rice varieties.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, the people were given seeds recently after the COVID-19 attack, pandemic. We were given free seeds and to grow things. Now, not only them, but even the country, what about the storing of the food that have been produced? Do we have a good system to store and deliver
But the sowing of what?
any food item that we make in the country? How is the storage situation in the country? How is the storage situation in the country? Like food that have been produced during a season, can they be stored and later distributed properly without wasting?
Storing, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
storage.
Keeping in storage.
That's correct.
You can rice less than 14% moisture. You can do storage. But in other countries like in Japan, you store brown rice 25 degrees. Brown rice means you just hull the rice or without polishing, just store it at 25 degrees. So you can do storage without any problem. But only problem is the moisture percentage state should be less than 40%. Okay. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure.
You did answer. You gave a good qualified answer. But the question is, do we in Sri Lanka things are in order? Can we store our rice that we produce any kind in the proper order and distribute later?
Yes, you can do that.
We
At
have the
14%, less than 14% moisture, you can try that. You can store it. You can
so
eat that.
we do not waste rice produced unnecessarily. Is that right?
We do not what?
So are we in a position as a country to save all the rice that we produce without getting damaged?
Yes, that's what I am saying.
Thank
So
you.
you have to be storage in the dry zone, and moisture content of the grain should be less than 14%. I mean,
Right.
1/4, right?
Thank you, Doctor.
So that you
Then-
can get.
Thank you. Then there's a very short question, but I think it's a loaded one. So you may take 1 minute to answer this question. Do we have a national food security model? This is a very important question. Do we have a national food security model?
I'm sorry, I can't answer because I have 20
Thank you.
years.
That's
After
okay.
that, I don't.
Right.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, let me ask another question.
Okay,
There was a
sure.
question like this. Hang on a second. The next question is about let me read it.
Yeah, sure.
Dr. Dhanapal, you mentioned about no yield due to lack of water. Just a suggestion, can rainwater harvesting help this situation?
Well, not in rice, because rice you need at least more than 5 acre feet of water, right? So rain harvest, it may be impossible to irrigate rice fields. But only thing is you can do your cultivation with the onset of the season.
All right.
There are varieties. Yeah, there are varieties of different age categories. So you can accommodate the correct variety in the correct environment. That you can do.
Okay. Now here's one that you might want to take up. This is a little bit of a hot topic. Let me read it. With various plant parasitic threats in the rice cultivation in Sri Lanka, Can we think of organic paddy cultivation in the country without using at least low toxic synthetic parasiticides? What is your clear opinion on about?
Well, that's what I said. If you have a gap between two crops without overlapping crops, this problem will not arise. As I said, none of these traditional varieties are resistant to any of those parasites. The crops are overlapping. The diseases can go from one crop to the other, one crop to the other, continuously. So the most important thing is to have gap between two seasons so that there won't be
Okay,
parasites going from one crop to the other.
thank you.
So this is a problem of irrigation, right? If you control irrigation and ask the farmers to do their cultivation with the rainfall and use irrigation water as sort of supplementary source of irrigation, then this problem can be solved.
Thank you, Doctor. One last question for you.
Sure.
It's from our chairman of the Agriculture Committee in OPA. A keynote address made by Professor Attaur Rahman, that was yesterday, mentioned about golden rice fortified with provitamin A. What is it? Can you explain more details with reference to Sri Lankan context? So
Right. From my
that's
point
your
of
last
view.
question, sir, for the day.
I was in Erie and people have been doing this transformation, genetic transformation there, genetically modified. And I would have done that for our varieties. But if you can do something with carrot, piece of carrot, right? Why do you need the genetically modified variety in the system? The fancy things to my mind. So as a researcher of rice, I would not agree that we should have golden rice when you can do that with carrot.
Thank you
That
very much,
is-
sir.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to listen to you for me personally as well. A lot of research work, a lot of background, a lot of history on your part. Thank you very much for all the presenters, three presenters, including you, the two others, Dr. Navaratna and Mr. Chari. OPA thanks all three of you taking the time to do these Zoom lectures in a difficult time for the country.